Hello, beautiful beings. Maria here. I'm just jumping on right now. Hopefully, it won't be too long, but oh, it's 11:11 where I am. I guess it'll be as long as it needs to be. I just really kind of want to talk about what freedom means to me as I continue on this healing evolutionary shift. Um, Obviously, it's Independence Day weekend. So I feel right now is a good time to really discuss what freedom is, what I'm learning true freedom actually is, versus what I've been taught to believe freedom is, what we've all been taught to believe freedom is. So I really kind of just want to discuss my own perspectives of what I've learned true freedom to feel like to me. For me, freedom, it's an energy, just like everything. I talk about everything's energy. It's a state of being, but it's something that really needs to be found inside of us. Obviously, we have been brainwashed, manipulated, whatever words you want to use, but we have been conditioned into believing that freedom exists separate from us, outside of us, and that we have to seek external sources for our freedom. And what I've learned is that the freedom we've been taught to believe in is truly an illusion. And that this true freedom really is an energy that is in me, in my spirit, in my soul, right? I believe that the spirit is always free. It's just while we're here in the human avatar, the human body, the human mind convinces us of otherwise. But I do believe that this eternal aspect of us, this spirit, the soul, the light body, whatever resonates with you, whatever you want to call it, it is the eternal aspect of us that is always free. It never goes anywhere, it doesn't leave us. While we're on the earth plane, we are in a lot of low vibrations here. So there's an aspect of us that feels very disconnected from the spirit, from the soul. And that's what many of us are awakening to now. But the spirit soul never dies, it never goes anywhere. It literally transcends space and time. But while in the human body, we absolutely have been taught and believe otherwise. So to me, as I've really tapped more into my higher self, my soul, my spirit, I'm really learning what the energy of freedom feels like. Sovereignty is another word that I like to use, that I feel is synonymous to freedom. And I kind of just want to briefly discuss how we've been taught to seek this external freedom outside of us from these extremely manipulative systems that have been on this earth plane for eons. And we have passed this paradigm from generation to generation to generation. And there are so many of us now that are really awakening to this and realizing this, that, while we live on a plane that has free will, most of us haven't really been exercising free will to the capacity that we can, because our free will here has been manipulated again by the systems that want to control us. And so I don't get banned. I will not use the full word, but the GOVT, I'll use a abbreviation for it. The GOVT, which essentially controls all of the systems, right? It controls the healthcare system, the financial system, the education system, the military, the legal system. Every system we have on this earth plane is controlled by one entity, the GOVT. And our GOVT is in cahoots with all of the other GOVTs globally, really, so they can manipulate us and use us as pawns to play their game. And that's what a big part of this awakening process is realizing this, that these systems that we've been taught to believe in, put all our faith in, put all our trust in, right? They've not been trustworthy at all. They've literally been manipulating and brainwashing us. And how do they do that? With fear, right? You've heard Sam and I talk about love and fear in other videos, because to me, those are the dueling energies that we see playing out on the earth plane, right? That's the duality, polarity that we've discussed before. And fear and love are both extremely powerful energies. And fear, unfortunately, has really been the one that's been running the show down here. So the powers that be, the GOVT, uses fear to manipulate every single one of us. And, you know, probably much of what I'm going to say is going to offend a lot of people. And again, that's truly never my intention. Just enlightening people to the information that I have uncovered these last 4 years or so about how things really run down here on this earth plane, this school of life. And these systems that have used us as pawns, right? They create the problems that humanity sees. They create the wars. They create the diseases and viruses. And then we join all these different career paths because, of course, from a young age, we are programmed and brainwashed into starting to think about what we want to be when we grow up, right? We're never really asked about who we feel like we already are. It's always the focus when you're a kid is always, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And it's always surrounding a career, because we have all falsely identified with our careers. I was a nurse, right? And there's a part of me that took that on as a role in the sense of like who I actually am. And that is so not who I am at all. It was a role that I played that I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful that I was part of the system, because that's what allowed me to wake up, right? I had to be part of it to see all sides of the healthcare system, is what I'm referencing, because that's the system I was part of, and being a nurse was the role that I self-identified with. But anybody that watches this video is part of a system. We all are, because that's part of the game here. So, our egos, our conditioned mind, whatever you want to call it, gets extremely offended when you start to realize that we've been pawns of something that has manipulated all of us. The majority of us go into our career paths, especially the ones that are of service, with good intention. We want to help people, right? Nurses want to help people. Police officers want to help people. Military wants to help people. We want to protect. We want to save. All these things, right, that we have been programmed into believing that we're doing for humanity. And when you start to awaken and realize that these external systems that have controlled us don't have any of those intentions, it's extremely tough to swallow and to accept. And this is a big part of going through the dark night of the soul, which many of us go through many times. So again, what I'm saying is not to offend anybody that is in any of these jobs, because I was part of it. All of my loved ones have been part of it, are still part of it, right? And I have no judgment towards any of us, because I know our intentions we're always based out of an aspect of love, the love that we've been taught here, right? The love, the service to others, those that become teachers, they want to mold the minds of young children, right? So again, the intention of most of us that have been going into these careers have come from a good place. But if we can't see that the systems we work for are not coming from that intention, we are actually continuing to perpetuate these false illusions of freedom on the earth plane. We, as humans, have put all of our faith into legal systems. Oh, that's such a farce. But we've been taught to basically depend on all of these systems to tell us that we're free, to dictate our freedom, to make laws or break laws that make us feel like we're free. And, there's a lot coming up again in the collective with laws that have been passed years ago promoting freedom. And now those laws are being uprooted, right? And the reason for all of that, the bigger reason for all of that, is to continue to wake people the F up, to realize that these things that we believed were making us free were doing the absolute opposite. They were enslaving us to live in fear and to make fear-based decisions and to depend on these systems. And when we depend on them, guess what? Our money, all of our money that comes from these systems goes right back into these systems because we depend on them. We need them. We need them to survive. And so the more you start to realize this, the more you want to break free. Because the soul just doesn't want to be part of, many of us, I'm not saying everyone, but many of us here at this now time are here to tap into the part of the soul that doesn't want to play that game anymore. We want to create a new game on the earth plane, one that is empowering and liberating and freeing and really exercising what free will is, really being in that energy of freedom. And to me, freedom is it's a state of mind. It truly is. It is a state of mind. But in order to be able to get your mind into that state, you really have to tap into this heart space, right? That we talk about all the time. The heart as in the heart energy center, but also even the heart as the organ. The organ of the heart has so much intelligence to it. It's actually more intelligent than the brain. But of course, we've never been taught that. Why would we? Because it would free us. That's why. That is why. So when we start to do like meditation and mindfulness and sitting with self without all of the external distractions and start to really connect with that heart space, which is the portal to your spirit. It is the portal to your soul. You start to realize what freedom feels like in your body. And it feels expansive. It feels liberating and empowering. And once you start to even get a little taste of that, you really start to see the illusion of what we've been taught that freedom is. This holiday that we're celebrating this weekend, it's a farce. I'm sorry, but it's a farce. America is not free. No country is really free because, again, we're being run by a global elite entity that wants us to play the game of fear, to live in fear, to live in survival mode, to live on autopilot, to work 40 to 50 to 60 to 70 plus hours a week to a job that doesn't give two hoots about us, that is draining us every time we walk in. And then we self-identify with whatever that job is. We believe that's who we are, which is why a lot of people, when they retire, have a really hard time like adjusting to retirement. Because, again, we have falsely identified with these roles that we've played, and we believe that that is who we are. And it's not. It's such a far cry from who we actually are. And when you start to realize that, this is, why I left the system a year ago. Because I was like, oh, wow, I am still working for an entity that I don't believe in. I don't believe in what the system teaches, perpetuates. I'm in a healthcare system that's actually perpetuating disease and fear onto people. I can't be part of it, right? So this was what I decided last year. I finally listened to my heart and soul and was like, I can't do it anymore. And did my ego have an extremely hard time with giving up the money I was making? Oh, yes, 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 it did. Because I will be honest, the last job that I had in the system was a very well-paying job, and I worked from home. So yeah, the ego was not a fan of that decision. And the ego still fights me on it a year later, especially seeing what's happening financially out there, right? Like it would be easy for me to slip back into fear right now. Around finances and my financial situation with where my business is at, and what I was making before this huge leap. But I'm very aware of that. I'm very, very aware of my ego, and I'm very aware of my higher self, which is constant discernment every single day. It's discerning what voice is talking to me and which one do I feel like following. Do I want to follow the guidance of my higher self, or do I want to slip back into old patterns of the ego and continue to make fear based decisions, right? And that's what many of us are being asked to look at right now. We're being asked to look at what in our life does not feel aligned with our soul, because many of the things in our lives are not in alignment with what our spirit or our soul really wanted to come down and experience. And I believe there's so many of us here that want to break free of this illusion of freedom that we have on the earth plane. Because if we can't break free from the illusion that they've told us is freedom, we'll never actually anchor the energy into our body and feel what it feels like to be free. I have never felt more free since I left my job. And I was a workaholic. I am somebody that when I became a nurse, even before I was a nurse, all my jobs, and I think I probably mentioned it in other videos, I was very confident in my jobs. I threw all of my energy into my jobs. And so I succeeded. I excelled in my jobs. It was literally the only places I had a lot of self-confidence, but also false sense of self-confidence, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, I believed it was confidence. And so for somebody that was such a workaholic, and also somebody that believed in the intentions of being a nurse, to tell you that I feel more liberated now, not working that role, that job, that occupation, it's still even mind-boggling to me. It truly is, because I lived to work, and unfortunately, many of us are on that autopilot, gerbil wheel, hamster wheel, of living to work and working to live. And the majority of us are in jobs that we hate, that we feel trapped in, right? But because of this financial fear that we've all been enslaved by, because of course the financial system is one of the biggest lies that we have going. Our money isn't even backed by the gold standard. So hey, you don't have to believe me, but there's plenty of rabbit holes that all of you can go searching down to start to see how much of an illusion this freedom we've been taught we have is, because it's been a lie. So I say this because I think it's important to bring up on this weekend of Independence Day to start questioning within ourselves, what does freedom feel like? What do you feel like is freedom to you, right? Is it going to the job that you hate every day because you need the money for you and your family? Is it staying in the abusive relationship that makes you feel worthless and drains you? Is it doing things out of obligation and guilt? Because the majority of us, that's why we do a lot of the things that we do in life. Out of obligation, we think it's what we're supposed to be doing. Or out of guilt, because we are all walking around with layers and layers of guilt from this life and other lives, right? So when you start to really question why you make the choices you make, you start to realize that, oh wow, I am conditioned and brainwashed to live in fear, because I am making this choice based off of fear or insecurity, or I need it to live, right? That's all fear. And when we make fear-based decisions, we continue to create a fear-based paradigm for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for the earth plane. And when I started to realize that, that's when I was like, wow, I got to really take a step back and start looking at the choices I've made and the choices that come up to me every day. Because we're always faced with choices every single day. Every single day, we are faced with choices. But because many of us are still on autopilot, we don't even see that they're choices. We are literally robots doing, 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 not even thinking about what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing. We are like computer programs walking around like in this zombified days and doing what we have been taught to do our whole lives. That's not freedom, folks. That is being enslaved in the human mind. That's um, it's being enslaved, right? It's literally being enslaved, which on some level, all of us know this, and this is why there's such a desire to fight for freedom. And we can't fight for freedom, okay? Because when we're fighting for freedom, first of all, we're believing that this energy of freedom lives outside of us, like I previously mentioned. But we're also fighting the system that will never, ever make us free. We're fighting systems that don't give a rat's behind about any of us. They don't care about our safety, our national security. You think they care about all of that? They don't. They're all behind the scenes laughing together about how easily manipulated we are. And again, I know this is going to offend people, but what I can tell you is that it's only offending your ego, right? Because on a deeper level, your soul, your spirit knows this without a doubt. Because from a higher perspective, our souls came down here knowing that this was the game we were going to play in. We knew. We knew we were going to come into a very enslaved place. So it was all choice for all of us to be here. It truly was. I do Akashic record readings, and I have done countless. I don't even know how many at this point. And there is a common theme in all of them, and it's that our souls have chosen the paths we're walking. And our souls knew all the fine print of what we were coming into, which is why so many of our souls are shaking and waking us up now, because we're remembering. We're like, oh my God, that's right. That was the game I signed up for down there. But now I'm remembering that I'm a creator being and I don't have to play that game while I'm in the human avatar. That's one of the most freeing awakenings and realizations to remember, is that we don't have to play the game. Once you can see the game for what it is, and you have to be able to see the game for what it is on some level to break free from it. Because if you can't, it's going to keep sucking you in and you're going to keep playing it very unconsciously. You're going to keep reliving your karmic patterns and keep creating the paradigm that we have seen play out eons, generations. But again, our history that we're taught has been so manipulated and changed that, you know, this is a hard thing for the human brain to even swallow, because we've been literally taught the complete opposite. And this is why I just feel like I'm being called to do this little video today, because it is Independence Day weekend. And this isn't to take away from people celebrating. By all means, go be with family, go celebrate, but celebrate love. And as you're celebrating, start to ask yourself, what does freedom feel like to me? Because freedom does absolutely deserve to be celebrated. It should be celebrated every day, but not the freedom that they've taught us to believe in, because it's a lie. It's an illusion. It is literally the complete opposite of what the energy of freedom feels like. And, you know, we can't, I know I said we can't fight for freedom, but we can't fight for freedom. Just like we can't fight diseases, because the wars that they've created, I don't mean they, but on a higher level, it is all created on a higher level by all of it. But the beings down here that want to control and enslave the majority of humanity, um, they have created those wars. I'm sorry to say, they have, and they've also created the viruses that we are fighting. And this is why I say, if you can't even begin to see this, you will keep fighting their fight, but you'll keep playing their game and perpetuating the things that all of us actually want to break free from. Because if there's anything that I've realized is that um, we all want to feel free. We all want to be free, but we cannot step into that energy until we realize that the freedom we've been taught is truly a lie, and it's going to keep getting louder out there. These sort of false freedoms that we've believed in, like the Roe versus Wade BS that's been coming up, right? I say it's BS because I believe all of that stuff is BS. But the reason it's all coming up is it's to wake more people up to realize that these things that we thought dictated our freedom over our body, they never really existed. They never existed because it was this external, manipulated version of freedom, right? And for me, the jab was another. It was another form of that. It was to wake more people up to this illusionary freedom that we have. And many people did wake up, and many people left their jobs, lost their jobs. They'll say they lost their jobs, but I still believe that it was a choice for them to leave, because they had either a choice to get the jab or they had a choice to leave, to leave, right? So I do see that we are faced with choices, and that's why I do believe in this free will that we have on the earth plane. But we can't understand free will until we understand that, again, the freedom, the free will that they've told us we have is a lie. We do have free will down here. And when you start to awaken to all of these things, and even if you're still making what I would say fear-based decisions, right? You're still conscious because you're learning that it's an illusion. So you're still making a choice. And even though you may be making a fear-based choice, you're exercising your free will to make a choice. You've been given the knowledge of a lot of these things, but yet you're still choosing to make a fear-based choice. And I feel like there's still a lot of people that are in their jobs that did that around the jab, right? Because there's a lot of people that are waking up to this, but still chose to get the jab because of fear. So I do believe that, and I've been shown from Spirit that is a free will choice because they've been given the information. They know that it's probably not in alignment with their soul, but they're not ready yet to step out of the fear. They're not ready yet to step away from this financial security that we believe we have when we're in these jobs. And if anything, people should start to see that, job security is also a joke, because as you can see, no matter what job it is, they can dictate to you what you need to put into your body if you want to stay in that job. That's not freedom. But if you are awake and aware of this and you're still making a choice to stay, then you are exercising free will. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just understand that the more fear-based decisions you make, whether you are aware of it or not, you will continue to experience the same life lessons until you break free of it, because that's what our souls came down to do. Experience these lessons over and over. That's, to me, that's all karma is. That's a karmic cycle. That's reliving the same lesson through different experiences, but it's the same lesson. And it's something that we've all been doing in many of our lives, and that's why I know many of us in this current reality are here to break free from those karmic cycles. But it's not to say that you're wrong if you're not doing that by any means, because from a much higher perspective, Spirit has shown me that every single human has their own individual path here. They have their own soul blueprint of the things they want to learn. So some people won't awaken to all of this knowledge in this life, and that's okay. It's not part of their path. It doesn't make them any more or less evolved than those of us that are awakening to all of this. It's just a different path. And there are many versions of Earth that exist. So there's probably other realities that those souls are what, from a human perspective, we would perceive as more awake than maybe some of us are, right? That's why I literally hold no judgment um, towards anyone in regards to where they are in any of this, because I do truly know it is an individual choice. But I also know that many of us light workers, whatever you want to call us, are here to sort of spark this remembering for other light workers that haven't remembered this stuff yet, right? Or haven't fully felt the confidence to start stepping into this reality of becoming a conscious creator and starting to trust that intuition, that heart guidance, that stepping into the unknown. Because the ego wants to control and the ego wants to stay in the known. That's why we are all here reliving karmic patterns and cycles, because we have identified with the ego in many of our lives, and the ego likes to recreate the same things over and over and over, because on some level it does believe that it's protecting us from bad things happening. But the higher self, the soul, knows that things that happen down here are really neither good or bad. They're just experience. And the soul knows that the soul lives on regardless of what happens down here. So there's no fear. There's no fear in the decisions that the spirit makes. So the human will feel fearful when they start to trust that inner guidance, because it feels very uncomfortable and it feels very new. Because again, we've all been on this autopilot the majority of our lives in making fear-based decisions based on how the system has controlled us to be. And it's very, very disempowering. And this is why many humans are suffering unconsciously, suffering in the sense of physical disease, mental disease, emotional disease, right? I say it all the time, dis-ease. Look at the word, pull it apart, dis-ease, right? When there's disease, it's because we're out of ease. We are out of alignment. Our energies are all out of whack. And so the body starts to create physical disease. And I'm a perfect example of that. And I don't need to get into that in this video, because if you've watched other videos, I talk about it, and I'm sure it'll come up again. But I do know this from my own personal experience. And my own personal experience has taught me way more than my experience in the system, because the system, the education system, and then the healthcare system taught me a very, 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 very limited mindset of how all of this works down here. Because again, the systems are controlled and manipulated by the elite that want to play this game. There's actually nothing wrong with that game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a game that I know will exist on a version of the Earth plane for many linear years, because a lot of people are still in karmic cycles and want to play that game. This message is for the people that are starting to see through the game in little pieces and starting to remember, because there's a lot of you out there that are remembering, but you don't quite know what you're remembering yet. And so that's what this video is for, the people that are just starting to remember, or the people that have had this remembering for several years. Trust me, there's been many people on this earth plane more wide awake than me for many years. So I'm no expert. I can only share with you what I've learned thus far. And so I just really think, as we celebrate this weekend of Independence Day, start to ask yourself what freedom feels like to you, what it means to be free. Because the more we put our power, or the more we give our power away, I should say, and the more we put our faith and belief into these external systems who dictate our freedoms, the more disempowered we're going to feel, the more exhausted we're going to feel in the human journey, the more frustrated we're going to feel with ourselves and with other people, because we are still believing in this external savior. Um, all the religions have taught us to believe in an external savior that's going to come and save us, right? And that's just not how this works. Because if we believe that, we will always just be hoping, right? And then when it never happens, we have an expectation, and then we're let down, and we get into a funk, and we basically just live in this very low vibration energy, and we seep it out to everybody. So again, this video is not to offend all of your egos for the people that have fought for our freedoms, because I believe on some level, though I wasn't in the military, I do feel I have fought for freedom when I was a nurse. I fought for health for people, right? And waking up to what I was fighting for, what I was perpetuating, what I was teaching, and realizing that it was so disempowering was really hard for me to accept. And there's probably still a part of me that is still learning to accept that, because, we want to really be coming from a loving place, right? And when you start to realize, like, oh my God, everything that I was teaching, everything that I was giving in forms of medication, like, it wasn't helping people. It was adding to their disease. So that's hard, right? And for those that have actually gone to war and fought for our freedoms, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for when you start to wake up to this, because you've literally put your lives on the lines for fighting for something that we'll never gain from the external. But I have so much appreciation and gratitude for you people, because what you did was selfless. So as you start to realize that maybe what you fought for was an illusion, I cannot say this enough. Please forgive yourself. There's literally nothing to forgive, but your ego is going to tell you there is. So please forgive yourself, because we've all been manipulated to fight for things that we're never going to get from these external sources. And you all went into it with loving intentions to serve and protect humanity, which is what many of us have gone into many of our professions to do. And I have so much gratitude for those that have truly, what I believe, put their lives on the line for us, because I just have a lot of gratitude for that. And so if any of you that watch this have been in any of those roles and have a hard time swallowing this video, or anything that you awaken to, as more people awaken, just please try to have so much forgiveness and self-compassion, and realize that your intentions were always coming rooted from the right place, right? And just because we were all pawns doesn't mean that we're not by any means good people. We're amazing beings, and we're just starting to realize that what we fought for has truly just been an illusion. And when you can start to see that, you can start to actually break free from it and really be able to start to feel true freedom. And when you start to liberate yourself, your energy will liberate other people around you. Because one thing I know is for sure, energy does not lie. Words can lie, actions can lie, behaviors can lie. Energy doesn't lie. And the more we can tap into energy, the energy of everything, you will start to realize that I'm right about that. There's not many things I will sit here and tell you I'm right about, but I do know that energy doesn't lie. And so as you start to awaken to everything, start tapping into the energy of the things you cannot see, because you do have to first start to see the things that are visible to the human eyes, right? And that's what I mean about these illusions. You have to be able to use your eyes and your brain to see through the illusion. But then when you do that, you tap into this heart space, like I said, and start seeing the things that you can't see. Start feeling the energy. Feel the energy of the decisions that you make. Feel the energy of people that are around you and the decisions they make. And it's, again, this is not about being judgmental. It's about observing and starting to understand how energy really works and how it affects every single one of us. And this is exactly why the powers that be have manipulated all of the media to say what they say, right? Because it keeps us all in fear. It keeps us all in that brain locked state of what's the next thing that's coming? What's the next thing that's coming that I have to prepare for? You don't even have time to recover from the last thing they threw at you, and you're preparing for all these other things that are coming, right? The media is so manipulated because, of course, they're part of it. And so they know how energy works. And this is why they put out what they put out, because they know that we as humans, many of us, the unconscious humans especially, will just eat everything they drop. We will eat it up and we will spit it back out to everybody around us. And then guess what we do? We keep creating that reality. We literally create the reality that they put on screen for us to create. That's what we're doing. We're creating their reality. And when you can start to see that and realize that, you start to free yourself. True freedom. You start to free yourself. And it feels very, very uncomfortable when it starts to happen. But on some level, it also feels right. It feels right. Because again, your spirit knows you're always free. It's this brain locked, gridlocked, human, conditioned, manipulated, brainwashed mind that will keep you enslaved the whole time you're playing this game if you cannot see outside of the illusion. So, my friends, I am just sharing my perspective of what I'm learning, what true freedom is. And it lives inside of me, just like love, just like health. All the things that I have been desperately seeking externally have always been inside of me. But until I can see that the outside is telling me otherwise, I will never find those things inside of me. And so I hope this video was helpful for anybody that is maybe in beginning stages of awakening or who has been wide awake longer than I have. Because this weekend is all about Independence Day, and I am not all about perpetuating a false belief of that. I am all about inspiring and empowering true freedom. So look within, my friends, because that's where it is. I love you.